Hi, my name is Tiffany M. Davis, and I am the author of the Bastille Family Chronicles, Camille. And here it is. And welcome to our live Google Hangout. I have had many people contact me offline and ask me questions about the book, and some people just wonder if I'm real or not because I actually prefer writing my blog. I'm a writer, that's what I do. So I blog a lot and I post on Twitter, and my target demographic seems to like face to face interaction. So here I am, and I am talking about my book or whatever people want to talk about. So I am sitting here waiting for people to post questions. And while I am waiting for that, I will just say a little about myself. Let's see. At this time, I'm 41 years young. I am from North Carolina by way of Georgia, and I'm an only child. I grew up actually, I did write. I wrote when I was in elementary school, but I come from a fairly conservative family, so anything artistic was not seen as a viable means of supporting oneself. It is to be done as a hobby. So I graduated from high school, went to college. I'm a graduate of Georgetown University, so Hoya Saxa to all you Hoyas out there, and went into corporate America like everyone else. And I worked in healthcare for quite a few years, including a stint as an EMT. I was pre med in college for a while, but switched to psychology because I actually like knowing what makes people tick as opposed to cutting them open or what have you. So after that, I went on to work in DC as a policy analyst for a healthcare nonprofit. And when I was laid off from there, I said that that was it, wasn't working for anyone else. So I moved on and started my own editing and writing consulting firm. And I've done that for, gosh, over about 13 years now. Wow. Because actually, I started about a week before the 9/11 bombings, which is why it really sticks in my head. And I still do some editing here and there, but for the most part, concentrating on myself. But I've done a lot of work with self-published authors, and I've done some work with National Geographic and Sodexo, U.S. Pharmacopoeia, things like that. So that is my corporate experience and writing experience. And I actually wrote my first book back in 2000. And I found the old manuscript when I was going through some boxes, and it was crap. My book club read it and they raved over it. And actually, one member of the book club kept hers and had me sign it because she said when I made it big one day, she wants to be able to sell it on eBay. Go figure. But it was terrible. And I'm pretty glad that it didn't get published because I would be very embarrassed for my name to be attached to that at this point in time. Over the years, I toiled at my craft on the side, and I did a career switch and went into culinary. And I attended the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. I did an externship at Chez Panisse in Berkeley, California, which, in case you've never heard of it, is the restaurant founded by the great Alice Waters, who's very into, farm to table, things like that. And I was a chef for about 4.5 years. I ran my own restaurant, my own kitchen rather, in Miami, as well as worked in some other kitchens and worked in kitchens in San Francisco. I taught cooking classes, and whatever I did, I always came back to writing. So I dusted off a manuscript that I back in the day when I actually had a literary agent and made all the rounds with the publishing houses and started reworking it because it also was crap. And that kind of got me back in the groove. The Camille Chronicles was actually written last year, and I did it as part of National Novel Writing Month. So I wrote it in 30 days from November 1st to November 30th, 2013. Excuse me, sat on it and just kind of kicked it around. Started doing some other back in publishing, doing some book reviews, excuse me, for a magazine, and then decided, I just really need to get my own stuff out there. And that's what I did. So I took the draft of the Camille Chronicles, which is, I don't know what I was calling it then. I didn't have a title. And reworked it and went through Amazon, and there's the book, which I am which was formally released on August 4th of this year. Although I did a pre-release a little before that. And to everyone who still hasn't received their books, please be patient. I had the little backorder snafu, and the first books have arrived, so they should be going out in the mail. So thank you for your patience. And back to the current question. Um, so that's it. And we do have a question asking me, okay, where did I get the inspiration for Camille Bastille? Well, I just kind of started kicking around. Again, I have a healthcare background. That's how I started out. So I've always, medicine still kind of fascinates me in a sense. I do like medical shows like Grey's Anatomy, or rather, I really was a fan this season, not so much. Uh, House MD, loved that show. I was an ER fan back in the day before they started killing everybody off. And if you want to go back, because I'm really showing my age, St. Elsewhere and Chicago Hope. So we're talking back in the 80s. So, all my, you know, those in my age cohort will know what I'm talking about. So I did that. And one of the things I like to talk about is family dynamics. Uh, my family isn't perfect. I don't know anyone who does have a perfect family, but the way we interact with each other, the way family, whether the one you're born into or the one you choose, how you interact with each other. And so I thought about a group of siblings, and you hear about sibling rivalries, oh, this one does that, this one does the other thing. But what if they were all in the same profession? Because that would just add a whole nother layer of family dynamics in addition to the birth order situation. But then you have that competitiveness. They're all in the same profession. And the Bastilles were born. The name Bastille, I plucked it out of the air. Um, I did want it to be somewhat French because the family does has its origins in New Orleans, and New Orleans is like one of my spiritual homes. I love that city, so that's where I wanted them to be from. And I also wanted to add a little twist in the family dynamics because all of the siblings are surgeons except for one, and it's a male, and he's a nurse, and he's straight. So I wanted to, that's another level. You've got everyone performing at this very high white collar profession except one. And how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the, oh, you're just a nurse, and why didn't you become a surgeon, and this, that, and the other. So that is how Camille Bastille came about. She is the eldest daughter. She's the second of the six, and she's a classic overachiever. My character graduated from high school when she was 16. She did a dual Bachelor of Science, MD degree from Northwestern. So she would have graduated from college and medical school when she was 24, and then she did her 7 years surgical residency, so she was 31. So she actually would have been practicing as long, or if not, or maybe a bit longer than her eldest brother Grant Bastille. So that is where I came up with Camille. And another question, uh which book is coming out next in the Bastille series? That's a good question. I've heard feedback from different people. They want to see more of a certain character. I have not decided if I'm going to bring that out quite yet. I have 3 drafts written. There are 5 more books left in the series, and I have 3.5 drafts written. So I have 3 characters already written, working on half of the next character, and one still needs to be written. So it's a matter of picking one of those 3. I think I know which one I'm going to do now. In retrospect, I was going back and forth, and now I've decided which one I'm going to do. So I just hope everyone likes it. What I saw, a short story listed on Amazon about Sebastian Scott. Okay. For those of you who have read the Bastille Family Chronicles, Camille, which I shorthand and say call it the Camille Chronicles, she one of the there's a plot twist where she's being investigated by a special agent of the Drug Enforcement Administration, and his name is Sebastian Scott. Sebastian actually was the second book I ever wrote. Period. I wrote his story back in 2002, and then I wrote a second book because he was going to be a whole series in 2005. But I couldn't get his character to really, it wasn't speaking to me as it should. So I put it on the shelf, and I thought when I was writing the Camille Chronicles, it was suggested to me by one of the people who tends to read my drafts. She said, it'd be interesting if you get him to investigate her. And I thought about it and I said, that's a good idea. So, Abasade Copeland, thank you very much for that idea. And I played around with it, said this will be a good way to introduce Sebastian to the public. And so there he is. Sebastian actually will have his own book coming out in November in just a few short weeks. And it is called Blizzard. And Blizzard was actually the second book that I wrote back in 2005. And it picks up before the Camille Chronicles back in, so this is will be at least 5 or so years ago when he was stationed in San Francisco. So this was long before he came to the DC area, long before he met his friend Andrew Paxson, who ended up with Camille in the book, and talks about him. He's kind of a young DEA agent, only 5 years in, which is kind of young in DEA field agent terms. So he's an interesting character because he is from Brooklyn, New York. His family is from his mother's from Trinidad, and his father is American from Texas. And he has a younger sister, and he grew up and he was very much a black and white person. And the older he got, especially getting into the DEA, he started really seeing shades of gray. And I will talk about events that change him into the person that exists in the Camille Chronicles. So that is Sebastian in the short story on Amazon, which is called Undercover. A Sebastian Scott story. It's a little whimsical. It shows a different side of Sebastian. It shows he's not had a lot of luck in the romance department, and he joins a dating service on the low, to try and find someone because he gets tired of his mother and his sister and his aunts trying to hook him up with people. So he decided to take matters into his own hands. Let's see, we have, what is your inspiration? Good question. My inspiration is it could be anything. It could be something I'm watching on TV, a plot twist on a show. It could be a an article I read. I get in my email box. I see on Facebook. Facebook. It could be a random comment. So I get my inspiration wherever I see it. But as I stated before, I am really into family dynamics. So I do draw on some of my family experiences, and I'm not going to delineate what those are, but I do go into, again, the families I was born into and the families I chose, because I do have good friends who are like sisters and brothers, and we fight and argue and fuss and get into it. And we might as well all, my sisters and brothers from other mothers. So, what am I currently working on? I think I explained that a few minutes ago that I am not only finished putting the finishing touches on Blizzard, which is the first Sebastian Scott novel, but I am also working on the next book in the Bastille Family series. I have a tendency to work on two books at a time so that if I get blocked on one, I go to something else. And in the middle of all that, I also do short stories, which I do mention in my newsletter. So you should get on my mailing list. And for subscribers, they'll get advanced content. And I do tend to post short stories, which give a little more background into each of the characters. And then I put them on sale. So if it will really be in your best interest to be on my subscriber list so that you can get the free stuff. Okay, where did you get the idea for your most recent book? Okay, since the I explained the Camille Chronicles a little bit. For that, we all know that there are online pharmacies which are not authorized, which are somewhat illegal, where people can buy uh, medications that normally need prescriptions, and you can buy them without a prescription. So those drugs got to come from somewhere. So I put a plot twist in the Camille Chronicles where someone took her DEA number and they were using it. That was part of the investigation. They found that her DEA number was being used at all these pharmacies in the area to basically stock the online pharmacy. So she gets suspended because you can't have your DEA number abused like that. That is a federal no no. And that could have severely compromised her ability to practice medicine. So that is where I got the idea. And it helped because her love interest, Andrew Paxson, he is a DEA agent as well. And I do have a question that was asking about what he does. They were like, what's a demand reduction agent? A demand reduction agent is a DEA agent, but is in a more administrative capacity. They kind of more of a community liaison. They go out and they talk to the public and like I don't know if anyone remembers Dare, the Dare program in schools. It's kind of like a Say No to Drugs program. He kind of works with that. So that is his capacity. He got out of the field after being shot. He kind of choked up. He tried to go back. He choked up. He took this transfer, and as it's shown in the book, he's getting the itch to go back. And Sebastian is not helping because Sebastian's basically like, you're wasting your time, doing all that. You're good. You're in the field. You got shot. It happens. I got shot. I got over it. You need to come back. And that is another twist. Andrew is thinking about it, but then he has Camille, and he was single before, so getting shot really wasn't much of a big deal. But now that he has somebody that he would like to come home to, if you will, it made him kind of reevaluate some things. So that is what a demand reduction agent does. It is a real position. I have been fortunate to consult with the Drug Enforcement Administration in Washington, D.C. Uh, and also in Atlanta, and they have answered my questions. So thank you, Special Agents Barden and Truvalo, for answering all of my questions. Very nice men. What else? How do I deal with writer's block? Good question. I procrastinate. I do that. I will sit and stare at the screen, and as I stated before, I tend to work on two projects at a time. So I'll try and switch to another project and kind of get cooking on that, and maybe I'll create a short story, or if nothing else, I sit and binge watch TV shows. So thank you, Netflix. I sit and catch up on stuff that I've never seen, or just kind of put on the back burner. I think that's how I really got hooked on Sleepy Hollow. I am a sleepyhead, so yay. I love Orlando Jones. He's a great actor, so that is one of the things I do. And I've recently been catching up on past seasons of Grey's Anatomy. I actually started watching it from season one, which gives me a whole new perspective on the current season and really how badly they've gone far afield. I'm just saying. So that is how I deal with writer's block. I also go out and I walk, which also is cardio. Yay, fit as fly. And I go around and it helps me clear my head. And I just I do a lot of writing in my head. Before it even gets to the keypad, I will write in my head. So if anyone's ever around me and kind of see me with this blank stare, I'm probably writing and working out a plot twist in my head. So I'm not crazy, just a little unwell. I just like to write. So that is one of the things that I do. Let's see, another question. I talk about sororities and fraternities. Can I say what 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 fraternities? Okay. Uh I do make allusions to certain members of what is collectively known as the Divine Nine fraternities and sororities, which are historically Black founded fraternities and sororities. Let's see. Camille and Sheridan are members of Delta Sigma Theta, and Andrew and Sebastian are members of Phi Beta Sigma. And it will come out in a later book that Nicolette Bastille, who is the youngest Bastille, she is a member of my sorority, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, and Theodore or Ted, Grant, and their father are all members of Kappa Alpha Psi, and Dominic is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. So I do not call them out by name, but for those who are familiar with those organizations, you will pick up clues as to where they belong. So that is the current setup right now. I want to see more of Sheridan Bastille. Is her book going to be next? Sheridan. Sheridan is the very off the hook, mouthy Bastille who has no filter whatsoever. She is in Philadelphia, and she's an orthopedic surgeon. And her story is still evolving. I have a draft of it. I haven't decided if I'm going to put her out yet because she's just so fun. She is showing up in another. She's kind of almost like a recurring character because for some reason she just shows up, and she shows up because she has different relationships with her siblings. She idolizes Camille. Camille is her eldest sister, 2 years older than she is, and she gets along okay with Nicolette. Uh, she and Ted are pretty close because they're what the phrase Irish twins, so they're only about a year and a change apart. And Grant is like, okay, and she and Dominic do not get along at all. Like they're always sniping at each other. I alluded to that in the short story introducing the Bastilles. They and even Grant was like, "Will you two just stop? You've been doing this for years." So Sheridan's kind of fun to pop up because she usually stirs the pot in some way. Uh, the character, the character I haven't really clicked with yet is Grant, and he's something that I'm working on. How old are each of the Bastilles? Okay, the way they currently stand, uh, Grant is the eldest at 45. Camille is 43. Sheridan is 41. Ted is 40. And the twins, Dominic and Nicolette, are 38 at the time of the Camille Chronicles. So the short story introducing the Bastilles was 3 years earlier, so they're all 3 years younger. And of course, as each book progresses in the series, the characters will age a bit as well. For example, by the time I get to Dominic and Nicolette's story, they will be close to 40 if they haven't turned 40 already. So I will age them. Why do I write the characters so old? Okay, we're not old. Uh, I agree. I do admit I am writing for my peer group because I don't see a lot and I read a lot. I have not seen a lot of books that address my particular age group, especially not females. Now, especially when it comes to romances, romances tend to stick with the lower end of the 18 to 34 demographics, and I see a lot of the men are older in their 30s, the women are like uh, low to mid 20s, and I got tired of that because just because you're of a certain age, you're over 30, over 40, the dynamics you change. It changes your perspective on things. You're not as naive as you were in your early 20s. You've seen some things. For a lot of us, we've been married, divorced, engaged, children, and that changes your perspective on things. You realize that life really isn't black and white. It's like a pixelated shades of gray. And that is what I want to address in my books, just kind of how we deal with romance. We're not necessarily Match.com people. We're barely eHarmony people. We have lives and careers and how that balances out, and especially for females, a lot of us have tended to concentrate more on our careers and kind of push romance on the back burner. So I do address certain aspects of that. For example, career. Camille is a neurosurgeon now. She's a top neurosurgeon, and she's dated, and she just hasn't really found that person that really made her want to include him in her life. So I addressed that. Excuse me. What are the specialties? Sorry, what kind of doctors are each of the Bastilles? Okay, excuse me. Camille, I'm going in birth order. Grant is a general surgeon, so he does kind of a little bit of everything. Um, if you takes your appendix out, repair your hernia, you cut your leg, he'll do that. Um, all that good stuff. Camille is a neurosurgeon, and that is not to be confused with a neurologist. She is a surgeon. She will cut into your brain and your spine, and she, nerves in your hand, anytime that's compromised, she gets into that. Sheridan is an orthopedic surgeon. And locations. Grant is in New Orleans. He's born and bred. He never really left. He went away for his residency. He came back. Um, Camille's in Baltimore, Maryland. Sheridan is an orthopedic surgeon. As I said, she deals with bones. She sets them, hip replacements. She puts pins in bones, knee replacements, and she has a subspecialty in sports medicine. So she will be working with sports teams. She's done that. Um, and that's going to come out in her book that she's done some work with, say, the Philadelphia Eagles, the 76ers basketball team and things like that. Ted is a nurse. He is a critical care nurse, so he does only critical care. He actually works in Richmond, Virginia. There is a hospital that is just a critical care hospital. That's all they do. So that is his specialty. He's a critical care nurse. Dominic is a general surgeon, but his subspecialty is transplants. And so specializing in kidneys and livers. So that is what he likes to do. He's the techie of the siblings. So he's a gadget guy. He's got the iPhone and the iPods, and he's all about an app. And the fit wristbands. If it's electronic gadget, he's on it. And finally, Nicolette, she is a pediatric surgeon, and she specializes in fetal and maternal medicine in San Diego, California. She does babies, the complicated baby cases, the problems with the fetuses in utero, with the heart problems, and, excuse me, fetuses in distress during surgeries. She handled all that. And so that's what they do. And Dominic is, at the time of the Camille Chronicles, lived in Newark, New Jersey. At the time that his location will change when his book comes out. So that is what they do. What else? Waiting for, okay, any more questions? And in the meantime, let's see what else. How about I read a passage? I will read a passage from the Camille Chronicles because I think that would be cool. And where should I start? It's kind of spur of the moment thing. So, and I really haven't looked at the book since I published it because I've looked at it for almost a year. So I got tired of looking at it. So, let's see. Where do I start? Okay, okay, people, the song talking. Someone said, "What is?" He talks in Andrew. He talks in song lyrics, which actually happens. There's an author called David Rosenfeld in his novels. including one called Barry the Lee. He calls it song talking, and two of his characters do it. And actually, I and two friends used to do this in biology lab freshman year at Georgetown. So hi to Kim Hines and Craig Dates. We used to do this to get through the laboratories, and we would talk in song lyrics. And it was always funny. So I thought that would be a cool quirk for Andrew to have, and that is part of how he wooed Camille. So here we go. This is in chapter 1. The next afternoon, Camille heard her name on the overhead speaker and went to the nurse's station. Someone had me paged. The nurse pointed to the desk phone. You have a phone call, Dr. Bastille. Line 3. Who would be calling me on the hospital phone? Camille picked up the receiver and punched the blinking button for line 3. Dr. Bastille, she answered. Special Agent Paxson. Despite herself, Camille smiled. How did you get this number? Well, I wish I could tell you that I flexed my computer magic and hustled some government databases, but the truth isn't that exciting. I called the nurse's station and asked them to page you since I didn't have your pager number. Ingenious. Why did you have me paged? I was hoping you'd have dinner with me. Camille's mouth dropped open from shock. Investigator Paxson wanted to take her out on a date? Hello? Andrew tapped his phone playfully. Microphone check, 1212. I'm here, Camille finally responded. Just surprised, that's all. Why so surprised? I'm sure you get asked out all the time. All attention isn't wanted. Andrew was intrigued by the rancor in her voice. Well, if you turn me down, I'll just keep it moving. You'll stay in my heart, but my heart will go on. Camille tried to figure out why those words sounded so familiar. Wait, are you really quoting lyrics from the love theme to Titanic? Near, far, wherever you are, Andrew intoned in a playful monotone. Camille couldn't help but laugh. Andrew was a bit of a nut. So does this mean you'll allow me to take you to dinner? I should probably leave well enough alone. But why? Why what? Why do you want to go out with me? I mean, I haven't been exactly nice to you. Camille was fed up with men who wanted to be seen with her in order to boost their pathetic egos, as if she were a Birkin bag, or whatever the male status symbol equivalent of a Birkin bag would be. She was no one's trophy. If Andrew was one of those men, she needed to know now so that she could dismiss him and be done with it. There was a hint of challenge in her question. Andrew instinctively knew that if he answered incorrectly, as in made some comment about her insane model quality looks, Camille would curb him so fast he'd get a ticket for a moving violation. Tall, crabby women in surgical scrubs are hot. Camille tried to hold back a grin but failed. Seemed like self help author Sherry Argov was right. Men really do love bitches. She fidgeted with the half pack of donuts in her lab coat pocket. My schedule is pretty crazy. Andrew cut her off. When's your next day off? Tuesday. 6 days away, but it seemed an eternity when you'd been working 14-hour days for the past 3 days. Let's plan for Tuesday evening at 7. Is there anywhere you'd like to go in particular? What's your favorite food? Camille's restaurant experience had been limited to takeout and delivery lately, though she loved to treat herself to new places on her rare days off. Well, I heard some of the doctors raving about this new seafood place in Ellicott City, although I can't remember the name offhand. I love seafood. I'm a DEA agent. I think I can track it down. I'll make reservations for Tuesday evening. So, baby, what's your phone number? How can you be reached on a lonely night? Camille shook her head and tried to bite back a smile. Morris Day and the Time? Are you serious? Yeah, but don't forget they are called the original 7 now. Just don't tell me your number is 777-9311. If you don't like it, you can slap my face. They exchanged numbers, and Camille saved his into her hospital-issued cell phone before dropping it back into her lab pocket. Well, I won't hold you, Andrew said. I'm sure you have people to cut, sutures to sew. So I'll simply say so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. This time Camille laughed out loud. The sound of music? Hey, I'm a Renaissance type of guy. Later, Camille Bastille. Camille hung up the desk phone and went about the rest of her day with a smile on her face. The smile returned a few days later when she came out of a surgery to relieve pressure inside the brain of a patient who'd been in a car accident. She noticed the brightly colored arrangement of flowers sitting atop the rear counter of the nurse's station. Who got flowers? She asked as she pulled up the patient's chart on the computer. You did, one of the nurses grinned. Me? Camille frowned in confusion. Who would be sending me flowers? The last time she got flowers was on her birthday in September, and they were from her parents. That's what we want to know. We've been dying for you to come out of surgery, another nurse added. We were tempted to steam the envelope open over a humidifier or take it down to sterile processing, a third nurse added. They all watched with greedy eyes as Camille approached the bouquet and bent to sniff the colorful blooms. She loved flowers and kept fresh ones around her house as often as possible. She dug around to find the envelope stuck in a long plastic fork. Her fingernails were too short to rip the envelope open, so she unbent a paper clip and used it as a makeshift letter opener. She removed the card and read the message. Girl, you must have lost your way from heaven. Could it be for me you came so far? Signed Andrew. Angie Stone and Calvin Richardson, she murmured as a bright smile crept unbidden across her face. What did she say? Nurse 2 asked. I think it's from a guy named Calvin, Nurse 1 replied. Camille simply shook her head and tucked the card inside the breast pocket of her scrubs. She kept her Kool-Aid grin as she finished her charting. When she was done, she sent Andrew a text since she figured he was busy doing whatever he did for the DEA. Thanks for the flowers. Gorgeous. I'm the envy of the surge department. Signed CB. She got a reply seconds later. A real man knows a real woman when he sees her. Camille felt a flutter in her belly as she remembered the rest of that lyric from the popular Alicia Keys song. And a real woman knows a real man ain't afraid to please her. Yay. Okay. So that sets up Andrew and Camille's courtship. Now, in the paperback version, I simply list the songs that I included in the book in a playlist in the back. If you have the ebook version, which is available on both Kindle and Nook, there are links within the book to the videos for most of the songs. Uh, that playlist does exist on YouTube. And again, if you have the electronic version, you can link directly to it. I did include the URL in the paper version, but most people don't have time to type all that out. So there is a playlist that exists and people enjoy it. I've had compliments like, how did I miss it? There was a playlist. Oh my God, this is so cool. And one person said, I've forgotten how eclectic uh, taste your music is. So I'm pretty glad about that. What else? Okay, we have a question. Why doesn't Grant talk much in the books? Okay. Grant has been pretty solid in the books. He is the eldest, and I think he's so quiet because I haven't fleshed his character out completely. I'm still figuring out where I want to go with him, but uh, for the most part, he is a widower. His wife died at the time of the Camille Chronicles. She died 5 years ago. In the short story, she died 3 years ago. So he is still grappling with her loss. He doesn't date. He goes into he goes to work, comes home, you know, kind of keeps to himself, and he when it comes to his siblings, he's just kind of there, like more of a supporting presence. He doesn't pull rank as the eldest unless he thinks it's necessary. But for the most part, he just kind of lets them do what they do, and he just kind of enjoys the background. So that is a little bit about Grant, but I will talk about him. His story is coming up. You What is family business? You talked about that book coming up next year. Yes, family business is going to be about all of the Bastilles, and it is a standalone novel. So it is not a romance. It's just going to be a regular fiction novel, and it's going to get. I made each In each book, each Bastille makes a lot of allusions to their childhood and their grandfather, Lucien Bastille, who was a surgeon coming up in New Orleans back when uh, black people couldn't practice in hospitals like they had certain hospitals like a Flint Goodrich that was or charity hospital. Those were the ones where they could actually practice medicine. He came up during that time, and he had a very strong influence on his family. He is the reason why there are six medical siblings. He was a surgeon. He made sure his children, his male children, became physicians. Of but of his male children, one became a surgeon, who was Jacques Bastille, and Jacques is the parent, the father of Grant, Camille, Sheridan, Ted, Dominic, and Nicolette. And he is responsible for all of the other Bastilles. He just kind of got it on, he had this thing about a medical legacy. So I get into how Lucien Bastille became the dyed in the wool bastard that his grandchildren saw him as, and also how each of them got into medicine. Like, how did Lucien Bastille's influence play out in each of their lives? Because it did have a different effect. As you can see, Grant followed in his father and grandfather's footsteps down the line, including college. Camille became a surgeon, and she was an overachiever, so she had to be in a very difficult specialty. Uh, Ted opted out of surgery altogether, actually opted out of being a physician, and I get into his reasoning behind that. Uh, and in Dominic and Nicolette's story, Nicolette's story in particular is going to have a very interesting twist on how it affected her. So, because there is a reason why she lives in California, and so that is coming out next year. That is about a third of the way done, and that one is taking longer. And I enjoy it because I have to do a lot of research. So I get into, I have to. It's kind of fun, like doing research on 1930s, 1940s Louisiana, and understanding that that was a time that, you know people of color, especially in Louisiana, because they had the whole at the time, back in the 1700s. You had white, black, and the gens de couleur libre, the free people of color, and Lucien Bastille was kind of in the gens de couleur libre, and how that played out in his life. He wasn't, he was still seen as a second class citizen, but he was still better than another class. So how all that played out. Uh, I'm looking forward to that, though. I think people will enjoy that because it's not a romance, so there won't be any sex. Sorry, no killing, no suspense like in a Sebastian Scott novel, but it will explain a lot about all of them. What is this? Um, why is Sheridan so mouthy? I don't know. Sheridan talks a lot. Sheridan kind of has that. Sheridan is a bit of a middle child because her and Ted are right in the middle, and she wants to be seen. She wants to be heard. So, being in the middle, that's her way of standing out. Just kind of always starting stuff, always mouthing off, always saying what she thinks, and it irritates people, but they respect her for it. You talk about, why didn't I get into medical procedures? This isn't a medical. It's medical oriented, but it's a romance novel. The Bastille Family romance series are romance novels, so I don't really get so much into medical procedures as the love story. I try and drop a little, but you know, I I don't want it too heavy. It's beach reading. So I don't want people to have to think too hard. You don't need to sit with your Tabor's medical encyclopedia in one hand trying to figure out what I'm talking about. I try and keep it general, just enough so you can say, okay, They are physicians, and this is what a physician at their level will do. But by the same token, you don't need to know, oh, she's doing a laminal reduction on the C5. No, you don't need to know all that. Okay, we have 14 more minutes. So, does anybody have any more questions? And in the meantime, let's see, what will I talk about while I'm waiting for some more questions? Um, let's see. Oh, National Novel Writing Month. I mentioned that briefly. That is where I first wrote the Camille Chronicles last year, and that is coming up, and I'm pretty excited. I was actually a winner last year, and by winner, you don't really get anything except say you finished a 50,000 words, which is a novel approximately 250 words. 250 pages, double spaced. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm going to do that again this year, and trying to figure out what I'm going to write because I have a lot of ideas, and I think I might do another thriller, not a Sebastian Scott novel, but another thriller altogether. And this is an idea that came to me, but so we'll see what happens. What advice would you give to aspiring writers? Well, first of all, write. Uh, if you're a writer, write. And there is something to be said for writing every day. I do not do that. I admit that. I tend to write in spurts. Writing every day does give you that momentum. And when it's on, and you get the jamming, and yeah, you want to flow. But sometimes you're just like, I can't sit down and do it. Life gets in the way or the writer's block. And for me, again, I write in my head. So I don't write at a keyboard every day, but in a sense, I do write every day. So for writers, just write. And when you're writing, don't you're gonna do at least 2 3 drafts of a book if you're serious about your writing and putting it out there. So someone once told me, writing when I took a writing workshop at Hurston Wright, my professor, my instructor Danzy Senna, who wrote the books Caucasia and Symptomatic, she said, your first draft is for you, and the rest of your drafts are for your audience. So when you're writing, just get it down. Don't worry about editing, grammar, writing stuff in order. Just get it down. Then let it rest for about a month, and then you work on your second draft, and that's when you get in and you clean it up. Another thing I recommend: always, 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 always get an editor, because you will not catch everything. That is why you need another set of eyes on it, preferably somebody who's actually trained to do it. Just because your cousin got all A's in high school English, that does not qualify him or her to be an editor. Get someone who understands editing, who has trained in it, preferably has certification in it. That is what you need. Um, when self-publishing or traditional publishing, that is completely up to you. I tried this traditional publishing route. It did not work for me. I found self-publishing gave me a lot more freedom. I could put out a book when I want it. Uh, because when you're going through a traditional publisher, it generally takes 9 months for a book to come out on the market. Self-publishing, I can put out a book every month if I want. Um, I can write it the way I want it. I can set my own titles. I can set my own prices. You do not have that flexibility when you sign a traditional contract, because when you sign a traditional contract, you are selling the rights to your book, which means you don't own it anymore. Yeah, they keep you on because you wrote it, but that's pretty much it. They own you literally on paper. So that is something to think about. On the flip side, traditional publishers have the marketing, PR, editorial infrastructure to really push your book if they think it's worthy. So you don't really have to do a lot, as opposed to self-publishing where you are hustling to get your book out there, to get it known every day. It can be hard. You're accountant. You got to figure out your money. You know, if you're paying professionals to help you, how they're getting paid. Um, If you're setting the price for your book, well, how much versus how much royalties I'm getting, this, that, and the other. So with self-publishing, you're not only creating, but you are getting into the business of publishing, and that is something totally different. And if you're not used to a business like I am, I'm not. I never set foot in business school in college, so I never got into that world, even though I worked in corporate America. But understanding negotiations and all that, that drives me nuts. And as soon as I can afford to hire somebody to do that, I will. So that is something to think about. It really so for aspiring writers. Another thing, are you writing just to get your stuff down, or are you writing to publish it? If you're writing to just get it stuff down, just like a catharsis, then do you keep journal? If you want it out in public, then go back to the things I said earlier. Editing, marketing, all that. So that is my advice to aspiring authors. Get it down and get it tight and get it out there. And also, don't be afraid to fail. Your first book will probably be crap. The Camille Chronicles is my first solo effort. I've been published before in 3 anthologies where I contributed, but that's something different. This is my first solo effort, and it's okay. It's the best I did at the time, but any writer will tell you they will never think work is done. And I just, even in that passage that I just read, I'm like, I could have done better. I'm catching stuff that I was like, I should have rewrote that. Shouldn't have used that word. Should have put a comma right there. So it's little things, but if you keep writing, you will get better, and my next book will be stronger. So my hope with the Camille Chronicles was that people would like it enough. They say, okay, it's decent. I'll see what else she has to offer, and hopefully they didn't buy it and just like, it was all right. I just bought it because I knew her. But so that is how I work. But it is true because I can see a definite growth in my writing from when I wrote my first book in 2000 to now. And another thing for aspiring writers, you must read. You have to read. You have to read other authors, preferably in other genres, but you need to read, you need to see how other authors put words together, how they set up a scene, how they do descriptions, how they incorporate dialogue. You have to read. Make time to read, a few pages a day, before you go to bed, on your lunch break. You sitting at your desk killing time. Open your app, read it. Read something because you won't get better otherwise. So that is my overall advice to aspiring writers. If you have anything else, you are welcome to hit me up. You can contact me. It's Goodreads, my blog. I have where you can email me. I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/tiffscribes, TIFFSCRIBES, and post something. Um, where else am I? Yeah, um, I'm on Twitter at tiffscribes. TIFFSCRIBES. Shoot me a tweet. Follow me because I do post stuff. I'm on Google Plus, and I think under Tiff Scribes. I just figured that out yesterday. So I'm working. I'm working on project. I have like about 5 different Gmail accounts, so I'm still working through all of them. And if you have any questions, you can hit me offline and we can talk about it. So let's see. 5-minute warning. I hope your Tuesday night is going well. Mine is going pretty well. I am, let's see, next week, I think. No, it's still preseason. But NBA is starting up, and I have not watched the NBA in a very long time because I got tired of it, all the showboating. And I follow college because at one point college was a more pure game. But since most college people are jumping after a year and going to the NBA, I might as well look at the NBA now. And I admit the 2014 draft class has been the most entertaining I've seen in years. And so I kind of want to see how they're going to do. Uh, I am a fan of, I follow players, not teams. So I am a fan. The new draft class. Let's see. I like Shabazz Napier. He was UConn, which was Big East. So I still got, even though they went to another conference, that's another reason I got tired of watching college. They switched a bunch of conferences this year. And I don't have time to figure out where everybody is. So anyway, UConn still gets Big East love. So I like him. Joel Embiid. If you follow him on Twitter, he is hilarious. Um, he, he was trying to holler at Kim Kardashian. I was like, really? And Rihanna. So he's pretty interesting. Who else in this draft? Jabari Parker. He just smiles so much. I just like to see him smile. So I like him. Uh, who else? I actually like Doug McDermott, who's Creighton, which is in the new Big East. So shout out. And he's in Dougie McBuckets. He's with Chicago Bulls. So I likes him. And interested to see how Julius Randle is going to do with the Lakers and anybody playing with Kobe as a rookie. I'm just that's almost popcorn worthy. But I'm a Spurs fan, so go Spurs go. Championships number 5 in the books. I've been following Tim Duncan since he was at Wake Forest, and Greg Popovich is always good for comedy. Tony Parker, but that whole team, they got a rookie Kyle Anderson, so it's going to be interesting to see how he does. I'm really hoping they keep Bryce Cotton, who's currently playing on the roster in the preseason, and I'm hoping they keep him on, even though they really don't have any roster shots left. But you never know. So we will see. I'm just very excited for the season to begin. I'm not a football fan, so I just kind of blank out when people. I think that's why I haven't been on Facebook very much, because everybody's talking about their football teams. I have a lot of Pittsburgh Steeler fans in my feed, and I kind of ignore them. So sorry. Um, Although I like Troy Polamalu, he's got pretty hair. He does the head of I love his hair. That's pretty much it for Pittsburgh. So anyway, that is. So we have 2 minutes, so I'm just going to wrap it up and say thank you for taking the time out to hang out with me this evening. I really appreciate it, and I hope that I have answered some of the questions. If you have not read the Camille Chronicles, the formal title is the Bastille Family Chronicles, Camille, and it is available on Amazon, a paper book. See, paper book, and and that's me on the back. Yay! It is available on Amazon, and you also in ebook Kindle and Nook. I do have a link in my latest email newsletter that if you want an autographed copy by me, that you can order it through me, and I'll ship it to you. And my website's a work in progress, and there are short stories introducing the Bastilles and a Bastille wedding. Introducing the Bastilles talks about all the siblings, kind of introduces you to all the characters, and a Bastille wedding picks up where the Camille Chronicles leaves off. And both of those are available as Kindle short stories. If you go to my author page on Amazon.com, if you look for Tiffany M. Davis, they will be listed. They're only 99 cents. The Camille Chronicles ebook is $2.99. The paperback book is $14.95, although Amazon has probably put a discount on it, so it's not that much. And Blizzard, the upcoming Sebastian Scott novel, will come out in November, and he has a short story called Undercover, a Sebastian Scott story, which is also listed, and it is also 99 cents. So, but I write that under a pseudonym, Teemdee, but I'll put all that anyway. Uh, it is now 8 o'clock. Thanks again for hanging out with me, and I hope I've answered all of your questions. And again, hit me offline if there's something that you have not, that you want to know and I didn't answer. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Good night.